In this video, I would like to give you a brief explanation of parting using Scopebox. If you want to section a view, there are two ways to do it. For example, one of the ways to use a crop is I can come to the eastern view and I can duplicate the crop here. This is one way that you can do it. In fact, the place remains the same, only for Scopebox there are some differences. As you can see, Scopebox is off here when I come to elevation, so I can come to the view and tell Scopebox which part is which. You have to do this in a plan. Let's say I open a plan view. And on the same first floor, I am working on the eastern view here. This is my eastern view. So here, this is my eastern view. Now we are looking from the side. I can also use the scope boxes I used for the plan for the view if I need to. There are times when you want to split the plan into two parts, but you don't have to split into three parts, right? If you see the scope box fits your plan, you can use it for your plan. If you see that the scope box doesn't fit your plan, you have to change it. What is the point here? Let's say I want to split the plan into two parts. I split it into two parts. I turn on my scope box. I will duplicate it here and I put an overlap here. I'll name it Elevation Part 1. And here, Elevation Part 2. The point is that Scopebox has a height and Scopebox has a height. If I go to the view and turn on my Scopebox, you can see this issue here. The difference between Scopebox and plans is that you have to put the Scopebox in the plan. That means you can't put them in your own view. I will turn on my Scopebox from VG. Let me show you the template so you can work more easily. Okay, I will go to the annotations and VG here. And I will turn on my scope box. When you do this, the scope box you put in the plan will be displayed in your elevation. Let's see how it works. Okay, I will turn off my crop here so we can have a better view here. Okay guys, look here. Now in this part, as you can see, okay, the scope box you put in the plan will be displayed in your elevation. And elevation part 2, elevation part 1, all you have to do is to fix the height here. Then you can do the same thing you did for the plans for elevation and sections. You can take a dependence duplicate from the view now and out of the scope box in here. The only difference is that you have to edit the height and the views here. One thing to note is that the height of these scope boxes doesn't just affect the elevation view, it also plays an important role in the plan. For example, we had a project where the podium plans were much larger, so the number of the parts were higher. But as we went up, the numbers of the part decreased. Sometimes we had just 2 or 3 parts on the upper levels. So what we did was we adjust the height of the podium scope boxes to only cover the height of the podium itself. That way, when we looked at the upper level views, the podium scope boxes wouldn't show up and make the scene look messy. And we didn't want those podium scope boxes to show up in the upper floor plans either, since we had already created separated scope boxes for those. For example, let's say from the first to the 5th floor, we had 3 parts, but from the 6th floor upwards, there was no scope boxes at all, or maybe just 2 parts. In that case, we adjusted the height of the scope boxes from there, and they only extended up to the 6th floor and wouldn't appear above that. This was mostly for our own convenience. It doesn't actually affect the plan itself. If the scope box is placed too low, the elevation view won't be visible probably, unless you make the section a separate part. But in plan view, it doesn't have to be that kind of visual impact. So just keep in mind, if you want to draw a scope box for your elevation or section, you have to do it through the plan view. You can't create them directly.